Hey there. I got a whole bunch of weird looking things in front of me, and I figured I should probably explain to you why. I decided that I need a new skateboard. But not just any skateboard. This skateboard. This is my favorite deck that I made back when I was pressing decks in college. It's a single kicktail, 80 styles like pool deck, and it was a hell of a lot of fun. I had it for about 2 years before I broke it, and I rode it almost every day. Great deck. I miss it. I want it back. And the first step of making a deck is making a mold. But I remember that deck, and I remember there were some things about that deck that maybe could have been done better. So I thought, hey, it would be really nice if we could get it to be a parametric mold, so that instead of having to handcraft the mold every time I want to do updates, I can just update a CAD file and make a new mold. Now, I don't have a CNC router, but I do have a 3D printer. So the first thing that I did was to mock up the board in Fusion 360, and then I took it as a negative space out of a rectangle, which would give me my male and female molds. After that, I split the molds into parts that would fit in the volume of my 3D printer. Great, we should be able to print mold halves. But strength and cost of a purely 3D printed mold becomes a bit of an issue, so I thought, well, what if we print out a shell and infill it with something a little bit more dense and strong? Which is exactly what we did. I did an experiment. I bought a 2mm nozzle and installed that on my printer so that we could do a spiralized vase print, but still have really thick walls. There's a whole video about that right here. It actually went pretty well. The next step was that I took those shells when they were finished and infilled them with plaster of Paris. Plaster of Paris isn't my favorite material, but I think it'll do the job. What we're going to do next is we're going to get all the sections laid out on a base, hopefully get the seams all lined up, glued down, and then after that we're going to cut the pieces of veneer for our blank. We're going to throw it in the vacuum bag and pull it down, and we're going to make a skateboard blank. You ready? Let's do it! You good? Oh boy. Oh, smoking. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, that's real hot. Yeah, that's real hot. Okay, Okay, that's promising. That's still, well, maybe not. Maybe it'll just interface nicely. No, that'll work. That'll work. And then this guy is gonna be the one. It's gonna be a pain in the butt, because this is gonna be too high. All right. Gloog. Gloogle. There we go. Now we're starting to get a nice bead. It is a high temperature glue gun, it appears. That's not a bad thing. I'll plop that glue right down there. Make it be nice and even like. Hold it down. Okay. I think I actually want to infill this with some glue. Cool, cool. Make sure everything's nice and solid. I already gotta put a new stick in here. I'm gonna use a lot of glue today. Next. That's really hot. Okay, that though, that's a pretty good seam. Can deal with that. Next. This side I want to prop the meeting edge of the mold up with the glue a little bit because I over-poured the plaster into the side that's to my right now. And I just want to bump up the edge of the red piece so that it lines up and we get a nice transition between the center section with the concave and the section with the kicktail, since that is going to be very important to have a functioning skateboard. Okay, and this is going to vacuum down a little bit. That too be a pretty good seam as long as that doesn't sink. I think that's gonna work just fine. A little bit of a W concave. The shells themselves bulged out a little bit when I filled them up with plaster, which was a little bothersome for two reasons. The first one is that I didn't get the exact shape that I planned in CAD. The other is that I ended up using more plaster than I was expecting to, which is, you know, it's always good to be able to use the expected amount of materials. Just waiting for that glue to cool down. I think I'm gonna run a bead along the seams too. Just, you know, why not? To work, yeah. Well, no, that's not so bad. All right, so I'm gonna get a razor and clean that up. Actually, you know what? I think this chisel will work really well. Just gonna clean up some of this glue. The veneers are pretty robust. I don't expect anything to get pulled down into those cracks, but hey, it's just nice fit and finish. It's a good thing to do. Practice your craft. Make sure that things are well done, even though sometimes maybe they don't need to be. Kids, this is a bad move. This is not a good woodworker, skateboard builder, anything move. Never cut towards yourself, especially with something like a chisel. Okay, so the glue's all cooled down, and there you have it. For all intents and purposes, this is a skateboard mold. We could put a bunch of veneers and glue on top of this and suck all the atmosphere down on top of it, crush everything down, glue would dry well on that skateboard. But do we have a good skateboard mold? Well, I don't know. What makes a good skateboard? I would say for the purposes I want this board for, which is just kind of like riding around and having a good time, it just needs to feel good underfoot. So let's see if it feels good underfoot. All right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that's nice. Oh, that kicktail's good. Oh, I like that a lot. So it's about where my feet would be. And that's about how it... So one of the things that I wanted from the deck that I didn't have on the first version was this little kick in the nose, just to give your foot a little pocket to go in. And then the kicktail, yeah, that feels real good, guys. So it's an important thing to be able to do when you're doing design of any kind, is to be able to check and see how it actually works. This feels good underfoot. I will be happy with a deck that is pressed from this mold. So I'm going to run and get our stack of veneer and cut everything to size. I suppose after that I need to find and clean up the vac bag from the snowboard project, because it's still a mess. But with any luck, we could start pressing a board in the next couple hours. Very exciting. So that's our stack. We got all of our veneers. I cut 7 layers. My initial thought was that we would have 5 long grain and 2 cross grain. 4 of the 5 long grain were going to be bamboo, and 1 was going to be that dyed orange maple. I was looking at it and it just felt thick. I didn't really like the thickness of the deck, and I've been toying with the idea of making a composite anyway, so I think what I'm going to do is I have some 090 biaxial glass. I think it's like 6 pounds. It's not particularly heavy, but that's great because the original deck, the original version of this, also had a really light biaxial glass on the bottom of it as well. Next up, we're going to prep the vacuum bag, and then it'll be time to lay up the board and press it. So I'm going to do that. See you in a minute. Success! 3D printed mold worked out perfectly. I was actually surprised at how well it worked. I wasn't expecting the results to be quite as good as they were, but it held up solid. We didn't have any problems with like air gaps or anything in the plaster. We got a whole bunch of nice curves out of the blank. I don't know if you can see that, but it worked out very nicely. And the layup seemed to go well. I can't see any gaps between the veneers. It seems like we've got drip out, so there was probably enough glue. We'll know that better when we cut into it and start shaping it. And if there's any voids, I can fill them, but we're hoping for no voids, because if there aren't any, that means that this technique works, and we can continue to use it. I was debating earlier on whether to do the glasswork inside the vacuum bag or to do it manually after the fact. I decided to do it afterwards. My next step is going to be to give some kind of graphical treatment on the bottom of this thing, and then I'm going to do a manual glassing, which I'll do a video on and show you guys how to do, because it's something you can do at home. If you have a skateboard that you want to be a little bit stronger, to have a little bit more spring, you can do this technique. It's very simple. You can get the materials in Home Depot, and then you can modify your own deck. So we'll do that, and then we'll cut and shape it, and I'll have a skateboard, and we'll be good to go. So that's what's coming next. Super stoked if this project works out. I've got a parametrically designed skateboard mold that I can go and modify as I want. And going forward, we're going to be doing probably a lot more of that. So, as always, thanks for coming through, and I'll see you soon.